The story begins by explaining an alert that the city of Liang is under attack, and that residents must seek shelter in an orderly manner. Back to the present, at Liang No. 1 Secondary School, a teacher points out that entering the Hongji class is the only hope of becoming an elite warrior in the future, and that the entrance exam will follow the model of the national exam, whose total score is 750 points. He gives a warning, since only the top 10 students will enter the class, and the theoretical test will begin shortly. The MC, whose name is Chengdu, imagines that his chance to become a warrior has arrived and recalls that, in his first year, he suddenly fell into a coma and received 2 years of leave from the academy. Suddenly, another boy bumps into him and asks if he really had the courage to show up for the exam, since he was on leave for quite some time and is still daring to take the test. Then, he comments that young people are bold, since they stay sick for years and come back thinking they have the right to become an elite warrior. The MC grabs his arm and thanks him for the concern, even though he did not ask for it, says that, and walks away. The samurai Bun, irritated, questions how someone became so arrogant when he used to be a punching bag in the first year. On the other hand, Fingrui is trying to understand how the strength of Chengdu's hand became so great, and excited, says that he might accidentally take him down during the exam, and no one will be able to complain. Chengdu thinks about the exam, since he must briefly describe the current world scenario and the era of martial arts. The year is 2842 of the ancient era, when civilizations from another world were discovered and invaded Earth. Humanity counterattacked with nuclear weapons. 2 years later, the total nuclear war failed, and the number of deaths exceeded 5 billion. Under global nuclear radiation, humans broke their biological limiters and began to evolve. On August 27th of 2860 of the ancient era, the vital intensity of all adults reached level 2. That day marked the end of the ancient era and the beginning of the new era, becoming known as the initial day of the martial arts era. The second question is about important individuals who made significant contributions during the initial war of the elevated martial calendar. The third question is about which misguided policies various nations proposed to restore world order. After answering all the questions, he submits the test answers and, as expected, gets a perfect score. That is because he was not in a coma for 2 years. What happened was that a mysterious injury appeared in his body, and he began to repeatedly enter a bizarre space. The rewards from that space helped awaken his mental power, and he gained the talent of photographic memory. After that, he returns home, and his father says that he arrived just in time, since dinner is almost ready. At that moment, something falls from his pocket, and his mother tells him to be careful not to lose the exam confirmation card. The family gathers at the table, and his father shows that he managed to obtain chi powder and blood. The MC is surprised to see this, and Zhonghui says that he bought some to help the boy get more points and take the exam. Chengdu prepares to say that it will not be a problem to pass the exam, but his father interrupts him and tells him not to worry, since even if he does not manage to become a warrior, he will still be an important person to the family, and, because of that, he should eat and drink well, while he himself will find a way to get money. The MC smiles at these words and returns to his room, imagining that the bottle of powder his father bought cost 20,000 and must have drained the family's savings. And since he intends to become a warrior to change this reality, he ensures success in the exam the next day. After preparing to sleep, he appears in the mysterious space. Since the coma he had, whenever he sleeps, he enters that crystal space. There are many monsters in the place, and their objective is to destroy the crystal, which he himself must protect, and if the crystal is destroyed, he will remain in a coma for the entire next day. But if he dies while fighting to protect it, he will wake up quickly and with full energy. At first, he was afraid to risk his life and always ended up in a coma, and only later did he discover that dying generates vigor and several benefits over time. A system would always appear announcing the arrival of a new horde of monsters, and the only unfortunate thing is that only the first successful defense of the crystal is effective. He battles the monsters frantically and commands the system to open. With his current stats, it may not be enough to enter the elite class, but he does not have much time to think, since the next horde is arriving. A lizard appears spitting fire, and he runs to escape. In addition, the monster has tearing claws and also attacks with its tail. After dying so many times, he finally deciphered the pattern and rhythm of the giant lizard's attacks and, using his ability, lands a direct blow to the monster's chest, knocking it to the ground. However, he notices something strange and wonders if the lizard entered frenzy mode and regrets lowering his guard. Although he did not suffer a serious injury, the monster gets up and Chengdu advances anyway, since victory is right in front of him. He goes toward the monster's mouth but dodges the bite. However, he is startled as suddenly the lizard fired a fireball but missed the attack since the MC is a small target. Taking advantage of this opening, he runs along the monster's arm and throws his sword, which hits one of its eyes directly. Then, activating his agility, he grabs his sword and pierces the lizard's head, which falls lifeless to the ground, giving him the opportunity to finish it with his final attack. The system congratulates him for successfully defending 5 hordes of monsters, and his spiritual power increased by 1 point. In addition, it congratulates him for the waves defended, and the immortal void visualization method was obtained. He is surprised, since from what he knows, that is the Suxian visualization technique, and he remembers that at school, they said it is a rare technique to actively train mental power, and, although he can rely on system rewards to level up, the more techniques like that, the better. A notification tells him to prepare for the arrival of a new horde of monsters, and he is shocked, since he is facing colossal monsters far beyond his power. He knows that the vital intensity of that horde is much greater than his, and there are 30 monsters, so he will not be able to pass anytime soon. Therefore, he decides to check the new technique he obtained. He finds himself again in another dimension, but this time, he is facing an absurdly gigantic monster. His body is completely paralyzed, but he finally understood why the technique is called visualization, since he must keep staring at the giant to which he will be subjected to the test. Time passes during his meditation until his sister enters the room calling him for dinner. He puts his shirt back on, and she asks what happened, since he seems more handsome. The MC finds this funny and asks if he was not handsome before. She tells him to stop messing up her hair, but goes back to wondering if he was really that handsome before, since she does not remember. He decides to look in the mirror and agrees that he looks a bit different from before, and wonders if the Zuxian visualization technique was responsible. Anyway, he puts on his uniform and tells his parents that he is leaving. After arriving at the secondary school gym, he warms up, since from what he noticed, the effects of the technique he gained are great, and he clearly feels that his body has improved. At this moment, someone approaches asking if the genius who had been in a coma for 2 years had appeared. It was Fengrui, provoking, saying that the bottom-ranked examinee was generous enough to show up for the test. Chengdu retorts, saying it is better than being someone who did not even pass the theoretical exam. They tell him to repeat what he said, and the MC mocks them, saying that someone who cannot even hear properly should not even show up for the exam. Fengrui tells him not to push his luck, and the MC says he did not mention names, even if the shoe fits. At that moment, another boy appears asking them to stop, since the focus is the evaluation, and if there is trouble when the teacher arrives, everyone will end up losing. Fengrui decides to leave but assures that things will not end like this. Linz panics and tells the MC that he is screwed, but Chengdu tells him to relax, as he will deal with anything. The boy points out that this is not the only issue, since he was gone for 2 years and does not know that Fengrui has become extremely arrogant, as the boy's uncle is the school principal. The MC realizes he needs to stay alert, as the troublemaker might conspire with the teachers to sabotage him. He imagines that the martial evaluation consists of a strength test and real combat among the candidates, forming groups of 10 according to their registration number. The 2 get in line, and the students stand before a giant cat, as at the same time, the last ranked in each group will be eliminated immediately, and that will be the strength test for that year. Chengdu is aware that there will still be real combat and needs to focus on conserving energy, so he plans to win with speed. Fengrui is also excited, as he has strength to spare, and the first round begins. The troublemaker throws a punch with all his strength, launching the test cat into the air. His subordinates find it incredible how strong their boss is, and say that he will definitely take first place. No sooner do they say that, than they are shocked to see the dummy completely crushed in the air by the punch delivered by the MC. People begin to ask who Chengdu is, as they have never heard of him in previous years, since he achieved an impact of 750 kilograms at an intensity of 5.1. Lin shouts upon seeing his friend do this, and has no idea since when he became so strong. The teacher is intrigued, as a vital intensity of 5.1 should correspond to 500 kilograms of impact, but Chengdu managed to reach 750, and no one in the Hongji class has achieved such a feat, let alone someone from a regular class. He asks his assistant to provide Chengdu's data and reads that he is a regular student who was absent for 2 years and reached 55% mastery in a level 1 technique, and he believes it might be even higher now, so he decides to closely observe his strength later. After everyone finishes the test, the teacher announces that the students who are called should go up to the stage, as they will have a real duel. With that, he calls Chengdu against Fengrui. People wonder if the MC has any chance, since despite having just returned, he had an insane result in the strength test. But they believe it is impossible to defeat Fengrui, as real combat depends on martial techniques, and brute strength alone is not a big advantage. The boy tells the MC not to think he is all that just because he did well in the strength test, and he replies that he wants to see if he will maintain all that arrogance after the fight. The troublemaker wastes no time and starts attacking in all directions, but Chengdu not only dodges the blows, but also blocks them, and, at the first opportunity, counterattacks with the hilt of his sword. Fengrui retreats after receiving the strong blow and, irritated, gives it his all, as he is determined to enter the elite class. He attacks using his maximum power technique, but the MC continues defending without much difficulty. Because of this, Fengrui uses all his strength, and his attack even destroys the ground upon impact. Chengdu realizes that fighting against a human is a bit different from facing monsters in the crystal space. Fengrui charges his attack and fires once again, forcing the MC to block instantly. Then, he activates the whip strike, and the attack hits directly, causing absurd damage. Fengrui pulls out a hidden dagger and prepares to use it, but Chengdu is faster and lands a punch to his mouth, which is enough to knock him out. The people simply cannot believe the result they are seeing, and the teacher calls the medical team to check Fengrui's condition and tells the next students to prepare for the duel. But before that, he asks the MC to wait a moment. He apologizes to the teacher as he got carried away and did not control his strength well during the duel. Ling says it is normal to get hurt in a real duel and that he just needs to be more careful next time, in addition to doing stretching exercises at home. Saying this, he imagines that Fengrui was completely crushed, while the MC did not suffer a single scratch, and it was probably due to the overwhelming superiority of his technique. Because of this, he activates Wang Kai to call the director. Chengdu thinks it is still early, and his father and sister should return later. Because of that, he goes to the virtual combat capsule, since although he cannot afford a private instructor, fortunately, the school provides one of these capsules for each student. He just needs to lie down in it to be matched with a warrior of a similar level. He reflects that he has been fighting monsters in the crystal space all this time and has barely used the virtual simulator, so his current ranking is still bronze. On the other hand, after Fengrui's humiliating defeat, it is very likely that they will try to cause him trouble to prevent him from entering the elite class. The results from the virtual capsule are recorded in the Blue Star Youth Ranking, also known as the Genius Ranking. This is a ranking of martial techniques recognized across all ecozones of the world. Not even the students from the elite class have managed to enter this list. Therefore, if he manages to achieve a good placement, he can secure his spot in the elite phase purely with his own strength. He enters the simulation and realizes that since he obtained the crystal space, he has never used that capsule again, so he decides it is better to start with a warm-up. He enters the simulation with a pigskin and becomes confused, as he does not know where his opponent is. Suddenly, a girl appears behind him, saying that his reaction is far too slow. He blocks the attack, and the girl admits that his reaction was actually reasonable, and says that this is not a school test, and there is no need to wait for the opponent to greet before attacking. Chengdu says he understands and assures that from that moment on, he will not give another opportunity to be caught off guard. With that, he starts attacking like crazy, but the girl dodges as if she is dancing. At that moment, he uses the Azure Dragon Thrust, and she asks if he really just used that technique, since the movement is a thrust, but he used it as if it were a sword technique. Because of that, The girl lands a kick and says that the 4 forms of flowing light do not need to be tied to a fixed form and that he should think more about the essence of the martial technique itself. The MC realizes that it is true, since it makes no sense for a sword strike to be limited by its form. She attacks so fast that she even cuts part of the pig ear, and he does not understand how the girl recognized his sword technique. She tells him not to get distracted, and only then does Chengdu realize that she is very strong and he cannot identify which basic technique she is using. He has no idea who the girl is, and still ends up getting stabbed in the head after a dirty move. With that, the victory goes to the little girl of nuclear warheads, and he loses 10 victory points. The MC imagines that he could have been defeated if she had simply used brute force, but even so, she insisted on using surprise attacks. He thinks about the essence of martial technique, since the flowing light sword style has 4 forms in total, and the Azure Dragon Thrust is the only one he has not yet mastered. With a thrusting movement, his characteristic resembles that of a mercenary. Only then does an idea cross his mind, since this class specializes in surprise attacks, while his fighting style is very direct. Because of this, he decides to conduct a test in real combat to see if his line of reasoning is correct. Another completely different opponent appears, and he laments, since he first faced a cheater, and now the system has placed him against someone with a weapon advantage, and he does not understand what kind of matchmaking the capsule is using. In any case, he advances with his sword and trusts that his technique is superior to his opponent's. Because of this, he uses the technique Incessant War Drums, and the fat guy shouts furiously, telling the MC not to think that just because he uses sword techniques, he is superior to his techniques, and attacks with his weighted ball. He wastes no time and activates Breeze Under the Forest, which deflects the ball back, and in the same instant he appears behind the guy, pointing his sword, and, with a precise cut, the Dragon Thrust wins the fight and earns 10 victory points. He realizes that it was the first time he managed to execute the Azure Dragon Thrust and reflects on why the sword is considered a weapon of dexterity. After all, this does not only mean agility, but rather mutability. It can be rigid or flexible, hidden or visible. It can be fast like thunder or fluid like the current of a river. The Dragon Thrust, as the last form of the style, served to understand one thing. The sword can be used in an honorable and direct way, but it can also be used for sneaky attacks. Suddenly, the system congratulates him for increasing his mastery of the flowing light sword, and his level keeps rising more and more. Sometime later, he leaves the capsule since he is starving, and his communicator congratulates him for entering the top 10,000 of the Blue Star Youth ranking. He is surprised to hear this, and the ranking is shown to him. He ranked 1st in the city of Liang, 7th in the district, 55th in the Great Bear Domain, 65th in the Ika Zone, and finally in position 6,219 of the Blue Star. He cannot hide his surprise since he did not expect that after mastering the Dragon Thrust, he would become number 1 in the entire city, and his spot in the elite class is guaranteed. After that, still at the academy, the MC prepares to leave, but Li Guo, who is the academy's student director and Feng Grui's uncle, appears asking if he does not know how to greet a teacher and where his manners are. He greets him, but has no idea who the man is. The man, who is barely tall, warns that as director he will conduct a general inspection of conduct and uniform, and questions what the hell he is wearing. He replies that he is wearing the school uniform. Immediately, all the students around begin to laugh, but they know that Chengdu is in trouble, since Feng Grui's uncle will probably take revenge for his nephew, and there are rumors that the MC only won the duel because he used some kind of drug. The student director points out that the entire uniform is out of standard, and Chengdu, not understanding anything, says that his clothing is in accordance with the school rules, and therefore wants to know exactly what is out of standard. Li Guo tells him not to talk back, and, trying to strike him with his stick, accuses him of disrespect and disobedience to a teacher, and therefore will report him to the higher-ups so that he is expelled. At that moment, someone asks who is going to report him. The bald man looks, not understanding who it could be, and sees that it is the school director accompanied by the city's mayor. Immediately, Li Guo tries to justify himself, but the school director tells him to shut up and asks if the student is Chengdu. The MC confirms, and he says he came with the mayor exclusively to meet him. Anquan says he wanted to congratulate him for becoming #1 in the city ranking, as well as entering the top 0.01% of the Azure Star Youth ranking, which makes him a legend. Everyone is left speechless by what they heard. The director says that after they talk, he should go directly to introduce himself to the elite class, and even Professor Ling insisted since yesterday to make this transfer. They go to the meeting room, and there is Moret, who is #1 in the elite class, as well as Lubo, who is #2 in the city. The three look at each other and simply nod in greeting. After that, everyone sits down, and the mayor says he will get straight to the point, since 100 cities under their district's jurisdiction are organizing a competition for third-year students. Each city will send the 3 students with the best martial technique ranking, and the rankings were closed at 6 o'clock in the afternoon of the previous day. A level 15 warrior will be responsible for leadership, and they will be able to participate in the tournament for 3 days, and the location will be Haicheng #1 Secondary School. The top 10 of this tournament will receive bonuses in the national exam participation and monetary rewards, starting with at least 10 points and 100,000 credits. With that said, he asks if they will participate. Moret asks why the competition is not in a virtual duel format, since the criterion is martial technique. He replies that the district leaders agreed that real combat is more efficient, and there will be warriors responsible for security, and during the fight, they will use special suits to fight with the same vital intensity. The MC imagines that his martial technique is at least in the top 20 of the district, and, at the pace of his daily evolution, the top 3 is almost guaranteed. The mayor adds that even if they do not make the top 10, they will be able to see the level of youths their age, and therefore, they do not need to feel so much psychological pressure. Chengdu immediately accepts, as do the other 2 students. Anquan is pleased with this, and says he will notify them in advance when the departure date is confirmed, so they can return to classes. The MC leaves the room imagining that if he manages to reach the top 3 in the 100 Cities tournament, his parents will no longer need to work so hard. He goes to the class and notices that the desks do not have the students' names, so he decides to sit anywhere. However, someone places a hand on his shoulder, telling him to get lost. This is Panghu, ranked 10th in the elite class ranking. The MC stands up and shows that he is not afraid at all, and wonders if at this time of year he will already encounter the school bullies. At that moment, someone appears and tells the big guy that it is the MC's first time in that room, and he does not recognize the class rules. Chengdu is startled as Moret approached without making any sound, and his vital intensity must be at least 2 levels higher than his own. Panghu warns that he got lucky and will let it slide in consideration of the top 1. Moret takes the opportunity and explains that in the elite class, power is determined by seat number. Once a month, they have a seat ranking battle in a real combat format, and the bottom 10 must attend classes standing for the following month. The MC did not imagine that the competitive pressure of the class would be so great. The student adds that it is the beginning of the month, so the seats have already been decided, and therefore soon he will need to challenge others to claim his own seat. Chengdu asks whether, besides being able to sit and attend class, the seat ranking offers other benefits, since the answer to this question will determine how much strength he will use shortly. Moret explains that the higher the seat ranking, the better, because it determines his resource subsidy for that month, and says this while showing that his seat is top 1. Chengdu believes it is worth trying, since if resources are involved, then he needs to secure the highest seat possible. At that moment, the teacher arrives and announces that class has started, and that they will go straight to the combat room next door. They go to the room, and Ling tells the MC that the challenger can make up to 3 challenges, and that he himself will assign the seat based on combat performance. Without thinking twice, the MC says he challenges number 10. This shocks the teacher as well as the other students, who think it is madness to start by challenging the top 10 right away. Ling knows that the MC's martial technique is excellent, but that he has low vital intensity, and that alone is enough to prevent him from challenging the top 10. However, Chengdu knows that the resource subsidy of the 10th place is 50% higher than that of the 11th position, and that is more than enough reason to try. Surprisingly, the student in 10th place is Panghu, who gets excited about this challenge and tells him not to end up crying. The MC does not believe that the big guy is the 10th ranked, and he confirms it, saying he had really bad luck. At that moment, the teacher intervenes and tells the big guy to put on protective gear before stepping onto the arena, and, looking at Chengdu, he thought the boy would be someone cautious, not someone so eager to prove himself. But in any case, he thinks it is good, since tasting defeat will serve as good training. Having said that, he orders the fight to begin. Panghu shouts, asking if he is ready, and tells him to hurry up and beg on his knees for mercy. The MC becomes even more confident, even with the giant hammer coming toward him. The big guy shouts that his opponent is too slow, and people are shocked by the difference in speed, since the MC's vital intensity is one level lower than Panghu's. However, the teacher finds something strange, since Chengdu's vital intensity the previous day was 5.1, and from one day to the next, it rose to 5.2, and he does not understand how something like that happened so quickly. The big guy shouts that he lost and punches the arena with all his strength. However, he finds something strange, since the MC simply appeared in front of him unharmed. He smiles and strikes a sword into the middle of the guy's stomach, which was enough to send him flying until he hit the ground like a potato. Suddenly, the teacher grabs the MC's arm and asks if, by any chance, the level 1 martial technique has reached the perfect stage. Chengdu replies that he was lucky to advance the night before. Ling does not hide his surprise, since reaching 90% mastery in a single night is simply unbelievable. In any case, the MC points out that his arm is being held, and the teacher apologizes and announces that he is the winner. The students cannot believe that a student won with such a difference in power and with a single blow. Even Moret is surprised, since he did not imagine that Chengdu was a prodigy genius. The teacher says that he has already secured seat number 10 and therefore wants to know if he wishes to continue the challenge. He replies that he does not, since he knows that even if he advances a few positions, the resources do not change much, and it is better to conserve his strength for now. The top one goes up to him and asks to exchange contact, since if they are classmates, it will make things easier for them later. The same goes for the rest of the class, who ask for his number, leaving the MC embarrassed. This gets worse since even Panghu clung to his leg, calling him Great Master and apologizing for his ignorance earlier, saying he should not take seriously what he said before. He is surprised at how quickly the big guy changed his attitude. The teacher looks to the side and tells the MC to go to his office after class. Sometime later, they go to the principal's office, and the teacher asks if the martial arts universities of Everest and Tai still have spots for special recruitment. The principal is intrigued by the reason for this question, and the teacher says that he would like Chengdu to try to enter through early special recruitment. Lemu says that both Everest University and Tai University are among the 8 best in the world, and that the minimum requirement for students is to have a level 1 martial technique at the perfect stage. And although Chengdu is only 1% short, it is still a difficult obstacle to overcome. The teacher knows that words alone will not prove anything and tells the MC to demonstrate it on the meter in that room. The principal tells him to go ahead and warns that the maximum limit of the dummy is advanced level 1, perfect for testing students. The MC focuses in front of the dummy and, after preparing his sword, uses his Azure Dragon Thrust, which makes the dummy's head fly off. The principal cannot believe it, since the boy was at advanced level 1 the night before, and now he is already at perfect level 1. Chengdu apologizes, since he did not expect the test dummy to break. Ling, excited, tells the principal that the MC is definitely a combat genius, since that battle instinct is as if he was born for victory, and he also points out that, honestly, in all his years of high school, this is the first time he has encountered a student who fights with so much experience, as if he had gone through countless life and death trials. The MC is startled by this keen perception, since this indeed happened in the crystal space. The director admits he is surprised and even says they will fully focus on his cultivation, allocating resources equivalent to seat number 1 and also handling the special recruitment by communicating with the universities. Chengdu, not understanding what is going on, asks what early special recruitment is. The professor explains that to enter the top 8 universities through the exam, his vital intensity needs to be at least 6.5. Therefore, with his current intensity, it is very difficult to reach the standard before the exam. However, through special recruitment, it is enough to reach perfect level 1 in some technique before the exam, and, if he succeeds, Evaluators from Everest and Thai universities will come to the school just to assess him. Chengdu asks if, in case he passes the evaluation of both schools, he will still be able to take the national exam for other universities. Ling asks if he has any university in mind, and he replies that if possible, he would like to go to Huangshan Martial Arts University. The professor does not understand why, since the resources provided by the top 8 universities are practically the same. Chengdu becomes thoughtful, since 6 years ago in the district, the city of Huxi was attacked by the giant clan. Although the garrison of Huxi and neighboring cities arrived in time to provide support, there were still thousands of deaths. With that in mind, he gets straight to the point and says he wants his family to be safe, and if the city has the misfortune of facing a crisis, he wants to be the first to return to save them. The professor understands the reason and believes that everyone who usually thinks this way has already gone through the tragedy of losing their family, and being so young with a complete family is something wonderful and certainly capable of carrying great responsibilities. The MC says he will use the 2 universities as a guarantee, and if he cannot enter Huangshan, he wants to know if he can go to one of them. The director says that, unfortunately, no, since as soon as he passes the special recruitment, he will need to sign an exclusivity contract with the institution. The professor says that if he achieves a good placement in the tournament that will take place in 1 month, the spot in the 2 universities will be guaranteed, and according to his calculations, the cutoff score for him drops to 100 points, and if he does not use this opportunity, he will need a vital intensity of 6.5, and therefore advises him not to play with his future. Chengdu thanks him and says he will consider it carefully. After that, he goes to the school gate, still thinking about the special recruitment, since it will be after the tournament of the 6 cities. From that day until the national exam, he will live in the exclusive martial arts room that the school gave him. During this period, he will try to use medicines to accelerate the increase of vital intensity, and what he is looking for certainly exists there, since it belongs to the technological martial temple. There are 3 great forces at the top of martial arts civilization: the extreme martial temple, which confronts alien races; the technological martial temple, focused on raising the global strength of humanity; and the Warriors Alliance, responsible for maintaining human order and security. The founder of the technological martial temple is Dragas, known as the 2nd strongest man in civilization, and although his strength does not surpass Yan's, his enormous contribution is unquestionable. At this moment, a girl meets with him, and Chengdu says he would like to buy 3 boxes of Chi pills and Thunder Blood. She replies that this medicine cannot be purchased directly, and it is necessary to pass a resistance test. He imagines that, before becoming a warrior, pills are one of the best medicines a common citizen can acquire. The user cannot maintain mental concentration for 30 minutes. The internal thunder becomes chaotic and can even put safety at risk. He presses the button to start the test and says he is ready. She activates the test, but finds it strange that nothing is happening. Then, the MC leaves, and the girl calls the technician, since apparently the thunder machine is broken because a student did not feel anything while taking the test. Next, he sits down thinking about how many pills he will be able to use daily, since based on the pain from the resistance test he did at the shop, it was only 50% of a pill, and it was easy. Therefore, if he takes it 3 times a day, the pain will be 10 times greater than at the shop and will still be bearable. However, when ingesting the pills, he feels a strong pain, as if his body were being electrocuted, but he realizes it was not that bad. The system congratulates him as his vital intensity rises to 5.3. The MC thinks this is great, since he is 1 step closer to level 6.5, and at this rate he will be able to refuse the special recruitment. He had planned for the pills to last a month, but apparently they will only last 10 days, and, with the balance in his account, he will be able to maintain it for 55 days. He concludes that he will have to stay in the top 2 of the tournament of the 100 cities to get the money to continue evolving. He did not expect the side effects of the pills to be so strong, and it even seems that his body becomes temporarily paralyzed, and since his body is tired, he just uses it to train his mental power in the crystal space. After some time, he wakes up, as he spent the entire night fighting against the Firefly Giants, and although he still has not managed to defeat them, his mental power has increased a lot. In addition, the school's resource subsidy has also arrived, and he can hardly wait to start class. The next day, Yeti, who is a mental power teacher, introduces herself and says that they will learn in advance a combat method of warriors, mental power attachment. The MC reflects that the mental power class is exclusive to the elite class, and that students with level 2 mental power can learn it, and the teacher's vital intensity is above 15. She explains that the higher the level of the martial technique, the greater the development of physical strength. However, if mental power is used correctly, it can double the result with half the effort. The physical strength generated by martial techniques is dispersed throughout the body, and mental power allows all that strength to be concentrated at a single point. She also says that the ability to make every drop of the body's strength fulfill its role is what they call mental power attachment. The MC notices from everyone's bored expressions that they have already learned this a long time ago. She gives a reminder that before level 10 of mental power, the physical strength they can mobilize is extremely limited, and she does not recommend that they spend too much time studying it. Then, finishing, she says she will test everyone's mental power. The students stand up, and she says she will use her flute to play the melody of fatigue, and thus measure each person's mental power. Yadi tells the MC that he can choose whether to participate or not, and this will not affect his grade in the national exam. Chengdu is surprised to hear this, and believes that the teacher must think he only has level 1 mental power and will fall immediately to the sound of the flute, and she is just trying to spare his dignity. Anyway, he says he will participate, and she replies that it is fine, but thinks to herself that young people are too competitive and that mental power is not something simple. In any case, she tells everyone to focus in order to resist, because as soon as she starts playing the flute, everyone will be able to feel extreme fatigue in their bodies. Everyone is excited, as they cannot wait to pass this test. She begins the test by playing her melody, and the MC realizes that something has materialized in front of him. Before he could think of anything, the dummy attacks his body, but he defends himself calmly, believing that it is a physical and spiritual hypnosis attack. The teacher is surprised to see this, since the MC endured it and did not even frown, making it seem as easy as eating or drinking water. She considers this excellent, since his mental power is more resilient than she imagined, and since she does not know how far he can endure, she decides to increase the mental power by 1 level. Most of the students are already starting to give up, as they feel their legs weakening, and, as she expected, most of them cannot resist from that point on. And, when she looks to the side, she is startled, since Chengdu is still managing to resist. She is aware that his family is so poor that they certainly cannot afford spiritual items, and wonders if he might have a natural talent for mental power. Meanwhile, Panghu, who failed early, laughs, because the stronger Chengdu is, the more it proves that he himself is not weak and did not lose unfairly the day before. After some time, even the other students are shocked, since the talented Moret, who is the top one in the class, took quite a while to give in and could definitely try to enter one of the 3 elite universities. The teacher does not hide her surprise, since the top genius of the class fell at level 6, yet the MC resisted up to level 7, and she believes she can test level 8 on him. Chengdu continues to resist firmly, even though his mental opponent is extremely powerful, and he keeps defending himself as best as he can, despite it being extremely difficult to withstand the attacks. After a long time, he finally gets tired and realizes that those duels do not only exhaust the mind, but the entire body. Yadi is still perplexed, because having mental power superior to vital intensity is practically a miracle, and, besides having extremely high talent, he can follow the path of spiritual immunity and use his powerful body to crush enemies, becoming a perfect warrior to face the civilization of the Great Eye. After the class, she runs to report to the principal, who cannot believe that the MC has dual talent in martial arts and mental power. She says yes, since she confirmed it personally during the class. Ling also comments that he spoke with Chengdu about the current situation and is sure that the boy can become a level 20 warrior, that is, a flying warrior. The teacher asks if that means he will be able to truly fly. The principal says that flying warriors are rarities of 1 in a million, and that it would be a waste for a genius like the MC to go to one of the 8 major colleges, since the right path would be one of the 3 elite ones, and therefore asks the teacher to convince him of that. Ling says he will do it. After some time, the MC is called to the office, and the teacher asks if he knows the Black Dragon University. He replies that he is aware that it is one of the 3 elite universities, but he does not know anything beyond that. Ling explains that the 3 elite universities do not recruit through the national exam. They only select geniuses with the hope of becoming flying warriors. Warriors of this level are called flying warriors because they represent a state of transcendence. To become one, it is necessary to have a vital intensity of 9.9 and a martial technique at intermediate level 1. However, only 50% of warriors above high school reach the intermediate level or higher in martial technique. Many cannot even afford IQ milk and basic blood, so when they finally earn money, the best training period has already passed. Before he finishes speaking, the MC responds that he will try for the selection of Black Dragon University. He knows that, if possible, he truly does not want to leave his family in the current situation, and this departure may very well be a definitive goodbye. Ling asks him to put in effort, since given the current situation, if he passes the special recruitment, entry into one of the 8 colleges is practically guaranteed, and he can use that to try his luck at Black Dragon and have a bright future. The MC thinks about the 100 Cities tournament since it is in 1 month, and he should focus on that first. After that, he returns home, and his sister tells him that breakfast is ready and he should eat. She says this while wondering if her brother is not completely different from before. He seems to have a better physique, looks more handsome, and also more mysterious. He draws the attention of his whole family and says that he intends to live at the school from that day on because he wants to focus completely and increase his strength to prepare for the tournament. His mother asks if he will be able to rest properly, since it is good to work hard, but he needs to take care of his health. His sister agrees and asks if the dormitories were not defined before the start of classes, and if he will still be able to get a room. He asks them not to worry, since the school provided many resources and there will be no problem. This is because each student in the elite class has their own martial arts room, and he will rest in that place. His father thinks this is great and asks his son to work hard and that anything he needs he can count on him and his mother. Chengdu says yes, and after finishing eating, he gets up to go to school. His family says goodbye, asking him to take care and to bring the first place trophy home. The MC took 9 flasks of IQ milk and blood, 30 pills, and 4 packs of powder, and these resources that the school provided were placed in the martial arts room, and all of this must be worth at least 50,000 credits. From that moment on, his focus will be entirely on training, except during classes. He asks Xiao Xiang, who is his communicator, to increase the gravity 5 times and prepares himself, since it is equivalent to the weight of 15 adult elephants on his body, and fighting robots under these conditions is interesting. The 4th round of training begins, and he realizes that in a supergravity environment, any mistake in applying force can cause muscle ruptures or bone damage, and therefore, he cannot take a direct hit, so he has to change the trajectory of the attack at all times. The robot reports that the evasion efficiency was 87% and the energy consumption is high, and the recommendation is to reduce unnecessary movements. He realizes that he is being attacked from above and below at the same time, completely blocking his evasion routes. And since he cannot dodge, he decides that the robot will also feel the taste of supergravity, so he delivers a kick that sends the robot flying to the other side of the arena. It warns that it will use its final resource and attacks in a way that almost seems to surpass limits. After being captured, the MC orders the gravity state to end, since the robot can release him. He takes a deep breath, since he feels that his body has reached its limit, and he will use the Xuxian visualization technique to raise his mental power while resting his body. Upon entering this state, he asks for those mental power experience points to come quickly. After that, he achieved an increase of 0.3 levels, and even so, his legs are still numb. He takes a pill and, since he is still exhausted, decides that he will sleep a bit since he will be able to go to the crystal space to train his martial techniques. Once there, he takes his sword and soon realizes that the Firefly Giants have arrived. And last time, he could not kill any, but he knows that this time is different. He unleashes his power, since he knows that the green spots on the monsters' bodies are not marks of curse or birth, they are healing energy. In addition, they only have a lot of life. They do not have other abilities. And if he destroys the green spots first, they will not be a threat. After going through gravity training, the MC feels that his body control in that environment has improved greatly. He can move with great agility and even attack with precision, thus finishing off one of the giants. Chengdu finds the feeling of lightness incredible and already wants to return to gravity training as soon as he wakes up. But before that, he will continue training, since he hopes to place in the top 3 in the tournament of the 100 cities. After that, in the city, the long-awaited day of the tournament finally arrives. The teacher asks the 3 students to follow him, and, at that moment, they hear someone questioning if they are not going to let him check in. It was Musashi, a member of the team of competitors from the city of Lu. He says that he arrived exactly at the scheduled time and does not understand why they are targeting him. The receptionist girl becomes frightened, even more so when she sees him drawing his sword. The MC comments that that guy's sword spirit is very strong, and his level of martial technique is probably above his own. The 2 students are shocked at how someone can have such a high level of martial technique. At that moment, Xiaogu, a member of the Haicheng team, arrives at the reception and asks to check in, since she should consider that the Samurai Bun team has withdrawn. Everyone around comments that she is the princess of the sea and that in person she is much more beautiful than in photos. The MC asks what kind of nickname that is, and Moret tells him to give up immediately if he is interested in the girl. That is because she is the only daughter of the principal of Haicheng Secondary School and possesses family power, wealth, prestige, individual talent, among other things, and an ordinary boy does not stand the slightest chance. The MC imagines that he has seen her somewhere before and recalls that it was in the simulated battles. She was the dirty girl who caught him off guard, whose nickname was the little nuclear warhead girl, since her face is identical, and he thought she was an avatar created by the system, since he did not imagine that someone could be so beautiful in real life. He smiles thinking about it, since he did not imagine that he would meet an acquaintance from the internet, although she probably would not recognize him, since at that time, he did not have the perfect martial technique. After that, they go to the room and the teacher says that the leader has just announced in the meeting that the rules have changed, and, before the eliminations, there will be a battle for insignias. Chengdu, curious, asks what exactly the details of this new rule will be. He says that the tournament will last 3 days and will have 3 rounds. The first round is the battle for insignias. In a forest, they will have 13 hours to find these insignias with some specific characters. After collecting them, they must reach the meeting point, and the number of those who qualify will depend on the arrival of the complete team. The MC asks how many insignias exist in total. He replies that there are 50 of one type and 50 of another. That is, at most, 50 teams will pass and the other 50 will be eliminated. The second round will be a one-on-one elimination tournament with very little rest time. 150 people will fight in a single day to determine the 10 strongest for the third round. The opponents will be random, but confrontations between members of the same team will be avoided. Liubo feels relieved, since he will not have to fight against the MC's monster. Finally, the teacher says that the third round is the final, and is also called the Battle of the Top 10. Reaching that point is already a victory, since the top 10 receive a bonus of points. The MC comments that whoever comes in first may not be the strongest individually, but will certainly be the most complete in terms of endurance and strategy. Ling says that there is one last detail. Killing is forbidden. This rule applies both to the competitions and to real life. After all, the enemies are alien civilizations, and they must never point their blades at a companion. Additionally, they will enter using special suits, and everyone's vital intensity will be equalized, while the leaders will also be hidden to ensure everyone's safety. With that, he concludes that he hopes he won't need to intervene, since if he acts, all 3 of them will be eliminated, and therefore, everything depends on them. The 3 shout that they will give their best. After that, at Haicheng School, the MC questions whether they are in front of a forest. Zhu Cheng, who is the director of Haicheng School, appears and says that apparently all the students have arrived. He points out that behind the gates there is a forest, and that it is a special environment exclusive to the school. There is also a dimensional rift created during the collision of the 9 planets hundreds of years ago. The MC reflects that it is a spiritual domain, and that it is a dimensional space full of monsters where no humans live. The director asks them not to worry, since it is a very stable dimensional space, and was personally certified by the 3rd strongest man in the world. In addition, He warns that there is a risk of death in that test, and, therefore, students must prioritize their own safety. Immediately, he points to Wuzang so that he does not think he can do whatever he wants, just because he is alone, since he will assign suitable companions at his level. The MC imagines that guy must hate everyone. The director performs iris authentication and tells everyone to prepare to enter the forest of lupin wolves. Zhu Cheng reinforces that the real location of the domain is an absolute secret and that the magic circle will take them there. Therefore, everyone is ordered to enter the circle, since they will be teleported randomly in groups to one of 1,000 points at the entrance of the forest. The magic circle is activated and everyone is teleported. The MC notices a strong light and realizes that he is finally in the so-called spiritual domain. Moret asks which marked point they will go to. The MC replies that they are lucky since there is an insignia very close to the starting point and suggests going to check it out. The two agree and go to the location. They throw a stone that activates the insignia. With that, they press the button and feel pleased, since they believed that the marks at the beginning would be false. But it turned out they found an insignia. As soon as he says that, he senses something. At the same instant, he pulls his teammate, since an arrow almost hit his body. It was the team from the city of Kun that was responsible for the attack. The leader orders them to hand over the insignia if they do not want to be eliminated. The MC realizes that it is indeed the team from Kun, a city much more developed than theirs. And generally, the bigger the city, the stronger the students will be. Meanwhile, in the auditorium of high school, other people are watching, surprised that teams have already started encountering each other. Cao Yan, who is the director of Kun's school, apologizes to Limu, as they had the misfortune of encountering their school's team, and assures that he will pay for their return trip. Limu imagines that he must be very unlucky to have run into his friend's school right away. However, the MC questions who they think they will call to eliminate someone. The leader once again orders them to hand over the insignias, and the MC does not back down, since just because they are from a bigger city does not necessarily mean they are stronger. Liuan prepares his spear and guarantees that he will eliminate him first from the tournament, and advances without any fear. The MC's team prepares for battle, but Chengdu asks to take over, saying he will handle it alone. The three attack at the same time, and Chengdu blocks all the attacks without much trouble. Liuan cannot believe it, as all three of their attacks were blocked, and the sword did not move back a single millimeter. He is outraged since the vital intensity of everyone on his team is level 5, and he does not understand how his opponent is so strong. The MC realizes that their leader is at the limit of advanced level 1 in martial technique, and that is why he is so arrogant, but the other two are nowhere near that. Because of this, he activates level 9 mental power assimilation and counterattacks with his ability, using the flowing light sword style. The attack is enough to send the entire team flying, except for the leader, who is trying to understand how the sword can be heavier than his spear, and, to make matters worse, has no idea how much strength Chengdu still has hidden. The MC decides to take down the strongest first, but before his technique can be unleashed, someone grabs the sword with 2 fingers and says it is a very powerful strike. The MC is startled to see that he was stopped without even sensing the person approaching. Meanwhile, Liuan angrily shouts at the teacher, saying he could still fight. However, Linbei points out that he has already lost, because the fact that Chengdu managed to tear everyone's clothes means his attack power is equivalent to a vital intensity of level 7, so even if he had blocked the blow, he would not block the next one, and therefore he is told to leave. He says this, and thinks that Chengdu's talent surpasses Liuan's, and that he will certainly become someone important in the future. Ling, who is observing from the shadows, is pleased with this result. Liuan asks for the EMC's name, since he rarely respects anyone, but will make an exception this time. He replies that it is the same name as the champion who will be announced in 2 days. Meanwhile, in the school auditorium, Limu consoles his friend, as Kun's school was completely annihilated. Other directors admit that they did not imagine there would be so many students at perfect level 1 that year. The students watching question whether Liang's team has collected 2 insignias so far, since they are heading toward the moon mark that represents the exit. Back in the forest of the Lupin Wolves, Moret asks if he understood correctly, as the MC just said that he intends to finish off Musashi in that place. He replies that, to be honest, With his current strength, it would not be difficult to obtain 2 insignias, but his goal is the champion title. He explains that first place for rich boys only means prestige. As for him, he does not care about that, but he really needs the prize of 1 million to live, so he sums it up in a simple way for them to understand. The favorites that time are Zhu Xiaogu and Zhang Tian from the High team, as well as Musashi from the Liu team. So the High team has 2 monsters, and they won't be able to handle them. Now, if they ambush Musashi, the chances of victory increase. Liubo picks up the idea, but questions whether doing this would just be helping the High team get rid of a major enemy. He disagrees, since if they don't eliminate Musashi, they might not even make it to the top 3. Following that logic, the 4 of them would enter the second round, but members of the same team don't face each other there. Since Haicheng is the organizer, he knows he would be deliberately matched against Musashi, so their students can advance. That said, regarding the second round, it doesn't matter whether he himself or Musashi wins. The winner would have to fight consecutively against the 2 from high school, and having to defeat 3 level 1 perfect fighters is madness. Moret finally understands why he is so determined to finish off Musashi in that very round, and Lubo finds everything very strange, as it seems like manipulation behind the scenes. The MC apologizes for involving them in this, since he can't guarantee he will defeat the guy, and if he fails, they will all be eliminated right in the first round. They respond that they already know this, and at their level, the important thing is to participate, but they are curious about how they will find Musashi. Chengdu says they will take advantage of his arrogant personality and strength, since he will definitely go to the places with more markings to steal insignias. So what they will do is ambush him on the way to the exit, where the insignias are more concentrated. With that said, they make all the preparations and spot a team fighting. He notices they are against a BB wolf, but finds it strange since they are monsters from his crystal space, and he doesn't understand what they are doing in that place, since the catalog of alien races contains all the monsters discovered by humanity, but the crystal spaces are not in the book. This makes him realize that maybe the monsters from the crystal space come from spiritual domains. The girl shouts in anger, since they are cornered because of Musashi, and before they could do anything, they are attacked, and a beam of light appears, defeating the monster. Xiaomei, paralyzed on the ground, asks if it is the teacher. However, it was the MC who defeated the monster, and taking advantage of the situation, he comments that he heard the name Musashi. One of the team members says yes, since after finding nothing at the first point, the guy went around fighting 10 of those monsters. They were going to follow the teacher's instruction to retreat upon seeing Musashi, but the monsters surrounded them, and he points to where Musashi was. Chengdu finds it strange, since as far as he remembers, there were no insignia markings in that direction, and he doesn't understand what the guy would be doing there. He knows that if something is strange, then something is wrong, and if that is true, Musashi's stamina would be at its limit, and it is a unique opportunity. Because of this, the 3 move forward, and Moret says they are lucky since everything is going as planned, and asks if the MC has any plan. He recalls when the boy was describing Musashi's direction, and tells them that when they reach the location, they shouldn't do anything rash, since he has a bad feeling. The 2 agree and continue moving through the area with the highest concentration of those wolves. After arriving at the location, Liubo wonders if they took the wrong path, since they ran for a long time and didn't find anyone. At that moment, a movement begins beside them, and the MC says they were deceived, since they are completely surrounded by monsters. Chengdu reinforces that what the 3 students said was partly true. This is because they actually encountered Musashi along the way, but that certainly was not the correct path, and they likely saw the insignia and pointed them toward that route so the wolves would finish them off. The 2 are worried, since there are 20 monsters, and it is definitely their den. Chengdu realizes there are 10 fewer than in the crystal space, but the vital intensity is higher, and tells them not to bleed under any circumstances against these monsters. Since they enter a state of frenzy, he wastes no time and begins by taking down one of the monsters. Meanwhile, in the auditorium, people are surprised since the MC's team entered the wolves' den, and this probably happened because they walked through the map without paying attention. The academy director is concerned about this turn of events and cannot believe his team might be eliminated in the very first round. His friend jokes that apparently the two of them will be leaving together that night. Another director says the boys were unlucky to end up in a medium-sized den and asks Joe what their chances of passing are. He replies that the chances are less than 10%. This is because the first battle for the insignia was designed precisely to give these geniuses a reality check, and everything would be fine as long as they did not get close to these dens, since the wolves could then be avoided. The director explains that the insignias were placed behind the dens so the students would not wander carelessly across the map. But encountering the BB wolves does not mean elimination, since dealing with a few wolves is not that problematic. However, running into a medium-sized den with 20 of them is extremely unlucky. His colleague says he understands and hopes their team passes without problems. The director tells him not to worry and says that with his daughter and his friend's son, nothing can stop them, even if it were a large den. The MC continues killing the wolves, since he is finding it far too easy, and more monsters head in his direction. He thinks this is great, since he managed to attract most of them, and as long as these wolves do not enter frenzy, the other two members of his team can handle the rest. They keep fighting because they need to finish off the monsters to help Chengdu. Liubo shouts that he will not be left behind, and they continue battling frantically, killing one wolf after another using their best abilities. 3 wolves head toward Chengdu, but he uses his Azure Dragon Thrust, finishing all of them with a single attack. He figures he has already killed those monsters countless times in the crystal space and knows their habits, movements, and tactics by heart. On the other hand, Moret feels increasing pressure and thinks this is awful, since he was always the top of the class and has now become the burden of the team. The MC estimates that the BB Wolves have a vital intensity of at least level 5, and the leader must be at 6.5. Although he himself can unleash a level 7 force, the monsters are only surrounding them without attacking, and he cannot counterattack. And to make matters worse, Liubo can barely hold off 3 wolves and has no way of helping Moret. He knows he only needs a bit more strength and speed, and just 1% more would be enough, since his sword would become faster and they might be able to escape. The monsters do not stop appearing and attacking, and Chengdu keeps counterattacking at all times. He knows he only needs 2 minutes, as he must reduce the pack to fewer than 10 wolves, or he will have no chance of leaving that place, and his sword needs to be a bit faster. He gets fired up and kills the monsters more quickly with the great sensation he is feeling, and if he can maintain that balance, they will have a chance. Suddenly, Liubo shouts that Moret's arm has been bitten, and this startles the MC since the worst is yet to come. The boy apologizes because he could not hold on any longer, but Chengdu lets out a loud shout telling them to run, since the wolves will enter frenzy mode at any moment. They barely have time to think when one of the monsters appears attacking at a colossal speed, forcing the MC to move even faster, thus managing to stop that wolf. He warns that he will stay behind alone to hold them off and tells them not to worry, since Professor Ling Yun is nearby, so he won't die, and only this way do they have a chance to pass. Liubo shouts to his teammate to hurry up, since they can't be a burden all the time. Chengdu reflects that the frenzy state of those wolves makes them gain more speed and strength temporarily, but they also lose their reason and attack any living being nearby by instinct. Since he has already faced 30 of them in the crystal space, it's time to remember how to fight against them. The wolves prepare and attack in the blink of an eye. The MC manages to block with his sword, but realizes that their vital intensity has risen to level 7. At the same time, in the school auditorium, the teachers comment that facing a medium pack in a frenzy state, even someone with 99% martial technique wouldn't be able to get through, and they find it a pity since they expected to see a duel between the 4 perfect level fighters. The director comments that the MC is quite strong and hasn't been eliminated yet, and is even too strong, which is somewhat strange. His colleague questions what is strange about it. He explains that he looked at Chengdu's data and discovered that the boy had never left the city before appearing in Haicheng. The other says that this is not strange, since martial technique mainly depends on talent. His friend says he doesn't find the level strange, but rather the fighting style, since the MC's flowing light sword style is not yet perfect, which indicates he hasn't reached 99% mastery yet. However, he can predict attacks without even looking. It's as if he had just come out of a pile of corpses on a battlefield. The director thinks about this and says that ordinary people shouldn't know about the spiritual domain, much less the BB Wolves. To make matters worse, the MC is just a boy from a common family with no connections to anyone important. Chengdu begins to get cornered, and the monsters take the opportunity to attack at the same time. He prepares his technique in a breeze under the forest, since he knows that, except for the leader, who has level 7 intensity, the others are a little over 10 monsters, and their total strength is greater than that of the Firefly Giants. He attacks using his ability and takes the opportunity to climb a tree, since he needs to find those monsters' weak point. After spotting that opening, he finishes off the underlings, since he needs to take advantage of their lowered guard to reduce their numbers. However, he is startled to see that many more monsters have surrounded him, and he has spent too much stamina moving and fighting, and now he needs, at all costs, to finish this with his next moves. He tries to dodge all the attacks, but finds it frustrating since his speed can't keep up. The wolves keep advancing, and he tries to attack, but the monsters manage to defend. He tries to create distance, but gets hit by an attack. And even though he is grasping the opponent's weakness, he knows he can't take too long. The monster attacks with even more pressure, and all he can think is that his sword needs to be even faster, stronger, and heavier to win. He remembers his family and his training against the martial dummy, and also all the trust his teacher placed in him. This makes him realize that this is more than just a competition, as it is the turning point of his life. He lets out a loud shout, since he absolutely cannot fall. With overwhelming power overflowing from his body, he lands a precise strike and realizes that the feeling of his sword strike is slightly different. The wolves continue pressing him, and he realizes that the leader blocked his attack. Ling Yun notices the situation and realizes that he should not have trusted the others so easily, as it would not have ended like this, and it could have been a good lesson before entering society, but the price is too high, and he believes it is time to intervene and end everything. But before doing so, he is startled when he sees an incredible aura coming from Chengdu, who at the same instant counterattacks with colossal power, managing to eliminate all the wolves around him. The MC realizes that the trajectory of the sword is perfectly aligned with the wind's tendency, and it has truly become stronger. Then, he takes his weapon back and leaves, as this single upgrade evolved his level from 98% of level 1 to 99%. Back at the auditorium, Kaoyan cannot believe that Chengdu truly had a breakthrough in martial arts, and his technique simply evolved to 99%. Another director imagines that, logically speaking, the intensity of a medium-sized wolf den would make even a level 1 student at 99% lose due to exhaustion. However, his attack seems far too powerful and does not resemble the strength and speed of someone at that level at all. They speculate that perhaps mental power is responsible for this, and, if that is true, his level must be close to 10. His colleague finds this incredible, as someone at that level has the potential to become a martial artist. Despite that, they think it is a bit exaggerated, since reaching level 10 would bring qualitative changes even to the soul, and the boy may not necessarily reach level 15 in the future, but even so, it would be something surreal. The director laughs, since from what he understood, his friend is trying to downplay Chengdu's achievements. The audience is amazed, as they did not imagine there was someone so incredible at Liang University. After some time, the little girl who betrayed the MC asks if they can really go pick up the badges of Liang's team without any problems. Shuai tells them to relax, since no matter how strong the team is, it is not possible to deal with so many wolves until the professor needs to intervene, thus disqualifying the team. He gets excited, since the cards do not have tracking, and at the moment there are no other teams or wolves nearby, and only they exist to collect 2 badges. They arrive at the location and see an absurd number of dead wolves, and are startled as they feel something is wrong, especially since the badge is on top of the wolves. They find it incredible, as they believe the one responsible for killing so many wolves was the professor who had to intervene. But one of the boys still has a bad feeling that something is wrong until he realizes what it could be and shouts for them to run, since the team from Liang City was not eliminated, and that insignia is a trap. Shuai does not understand how this is possible, since there is no way a student could defeat so many wolves. As soon as he says that, an attack passes, brushing his hand. The entire team looks back, and the MC appears from the bushes along with his 2 companions, and, curious, asks how they knew they had not been eliminated. The boy replies that it was because of the wounds, since all team leaders are forbidden from carrying weapons and would not be able to injure the wolves with cuts without using one. The MC reflects that, as far as he knows, his professor uses various weapons to train everyone during classes, and not only does he not know which is his best weapon, but he also completely ignored this matter, and because of that, he needs to be more careful. He takes the card back and asks once again where Wu Zhang is. Then he throws the card away, since he is not interested in insignias and only wants to fight that guy. The student reflects that apparently, Chengdu's purpose in participating in the tournament is not even to win, but to challenge Wu Zhang, whose nickname is Musashi. Seeing that there are not many options, he replies that he saw the guy in the opposite direction and that their target should be the star mark, but they ended up encountering the wolves along the way. The MC realizes that if they encountered wolves along the way, then it means the straight path provided by the officials has a problem. The boy explains that Wu Zhang is probably not in the original position, but he is definitely near the star mark. As soon as he says that, he takes a blow to the neck, just like the other two on the team, since the MC did not like being betrayed and is going to take their insignias so they can leave. The boy cannot believe things ended like this, and Chengdu simply says he is sincerely grateful for the kindness of pointing out the earlier path. At that moment, the school professor appears to help and points out that if the MC is going back on his word, then it means he has a bit of martial ethics. Moret hears this, outraged, and starts shouting, wanting to know if the professor has some problem for saying that, when in fact, they were the ones who were betrayed. After that, the team holds another meeting and Liu Bo comments that apparently the three had no ethics at all, but in the end, they managed to get 2 badges, and because of that, he asks if they will still challenge Musashi. He thinks about it, and since there is no answer this time, Moret is the one who asks if they are still going to challenge the guy. The MC places his hand on his chest and says he will not do that, since his energy and mental strength are exhausted, and forcing a battle like that would be very difficult. Then he says that he confirmed Wu Zhang's location just to avoid problems, but he did not expect that they would have such good luck collecting all the insignias. Because of that, he says they will go straight to the moon mark to deliver the badges and end the first round of the competition. He points on the map the path they should follow, and his team questions why that route. The MC says he found it strange from the beginning, since the rules for collecting the cards are too easy, and the organizers previously said that the places to collect the cards were safe. But when Shuai said the phrase, along the way, it caught his attention. Lubo has an idea of what it could be, and Moret replies that the danger of collecting the insignias is not at the destination, but in the journey. The MC adds that the entire wolf forest was designed to try to avoid the wolves' den, and by doing that, they will end up encountering other teams. This is a meticulously designed competition. Teams without strength, unless they have incredible luck, will not be able to reach the moon mark. So until they fully pass the evaluation, they cannot relax. The two, seeing how serious the MC said this, simply confirmed that they understood. They continue moving until they come face to face with a person, and Chengdu thinks this is bad since he knows who it is. He sees it will be a problem because they encountered someone from Hai's team who has 2 perfect level specialists. The blonde notices their presence, puts his bag on the ground, and summons several swords. But Xiaogu appears telling him to stop and says that the boys are covered in bloodstains and probably just fought the BB wolves. So if they fight now, it will not be a fair victory, and she admits she did not expect there to be another perfect level 1 specialist besides Wu Zhang, and states that she will eliminate the 2 of them in the next round, since her team has been champion for 9 consecutive years. Liu Bo is impressed, since he did not expect her to have the demeanor of a great heroine. However, the MC gets irritated by this, since as far as he remembers, that girl has nothing kind about her and is a cheating maniac. As the 2 leave, Zhongtian comments that he has never seen her talk about honor and victory or anything like that, and that they could have taken advantage of their weakness to finish off a team. She says they are in a live broadcast and needs to cover her face. After the first round, the students return to the hotel and the MC finally relaxes. Since his daily plan of refining mental power using the immortal visualization method is complete, he realizes that on that day, 50 teams, including his, totaling 150 students, passed the first round, and apparently he will need to defeat about 4 competitors the next day. And since his mental power is at level 9, assuming he manages to kill all the monsters in the 7th round, he will be able to raise it to level 10, and only then will things start to get interesting. He knows that if he has a mental power of level 10, he will be the absolute number 1. With that, the 7th horde of monsters arrives. He is startled upon realizing that he is finally meeting the two-faced bear. The giant monster attacks, and he dodges in time, realizing that to advance without problems the next day, he needs to defeat this monster that night. He runs off and notices that the bear does not protect its neck, so maybe that is not a weak point. Then, he tests the head, but believes that it is not a weak point either. At this moment, he is startled, since this monster only attacks and does not defend. Apparently, the heart is not the target either. He lets himself be attacked and blocks in time, noticing that strangely, the tail is dodging. Then, he finally sees hope, since the monster is trying to protect its tail at any cost. Because of that, he decides to leave an opening on purpose and fake an attack on the head. The monster falls into this trap, and he advances at high speed until he reaches the tail in time, landing a powerful slash and putting an end to the monster. With this outcome, he wants to see how many tails the monsters managed to hide that night. Meanwhile, in another dormitory, Xiaogu questions why they are being called. Her teacher asks if, by any chance, she remembers Liang's team that they encountered in the competition, which is basically the perfect level 1 master. He explains that his name is Chengdu, and according to the recent information, he will probably be the biggest obstacle in Team 1's path to the title. That is because, although the MC is from a small city, he is still extraordinary, as he managed to annihilate a medium wolf den by himself. She is surprised and wonders if, by any chance, he is an extreme level 1. The teacher believes that he has not gone that far, but he is certainly at the comprehensive mastery stage. Zhongtian is surprised, since, if that is really the case, it puts Chengdu on the same technical level as Xiaogu. The teacher explains that he called them to pass on this information and to warn them that they must be cautious against the MC or any other team, never letting their guard down. In addition, he asks what Xiaogu's chances are of defeating him. She takes off her mask and makes it clear that the 10th consecutive championship will be theirs. After that, the next day, in the room where the rules of the 2nd round are introduced, Zhou Cheng explains that it will follow the format of one-on-one duels, and the vital intensity will be limited to level 5. Therefore, out of the 150 people who fought, 75 will remain, and so on until reaching the top 10 with one-on-one battles. That day, there will be 4 consecutive rounds, and the final 10 will advance to the final the following day. The system will organize the order of the fights based on the duration of each battle. On the other hand, whoever has a longer duel will have guaranteed rest time before the next fight. The MC reflects that he is number 16, and, apparently, his team was the 4th to pass the previous day. Everyone gets ready after the instructions, and the audience gets excited, since the first fight will already be high level, and it is even a miracle to see it in person. It will be Xiaogu against Musashi. He gets excited just like the girl. Chengdu finds this first fight very interesting, especially because the vital intensity of both competitors has been limited to level 5. Xiaogu walks to the center of the arena, just like Musashi. He admits that he has always wanted to fight her, and the girl asks if he is serious, since he could have gone to school number 1, and she would have accepted that request at any time. Musashi points his sword at the one who carries the pressure of the 10th consecutive title and needs to show her strength to the fullest. And, since he heard that she is invincible at that age, he wants to see it for himself. Xiaogu also gets ready, then they disappear, landing attacks on each other. They retreat from the impact, and the current martial technique index of each one is shown on the big screen, both being at 90%. The audience is surprised, as they did not imagine it was possible to display the technique level in real time. Her colleague explains that the protective suits this time have special force-sensitive chips that calculate the level of martial technique based on the application of power. Musashi makes another attack that goes straight toward her, but Xiaogu manages to dodge, and her martial technique increases to 92%. Musashi appears attacking once again, but she only dodges, and he realizes that the girl is not in a hurry to deliver the final blow, and, even with her body in the air, she is still taking precautions. She keeps the sword suspended without delivering the attack, aiming for the arm that provides support. Because of that, she takes a knee to the stomach. This makes her become alert, and after dodging the next attack, her martial skill increases to 99%. This time, she decides to counterattack and deflects the opponent's sword. He takes the blow directly on the shoulder because she altered the force of the trajectory, and he notes that the girl is indeed strong. Meanwhile, the MC still finds it strange because he cannot identify the basic techniques of the two. She warns that this is only the beginning and attacks once again. However, Musashi manages to dodge and counterattacks, applying the same pressure. In the stands, Ling Yun tells the MC that before, the boy's martial skill had not yet reached 99%, and he did not tell him about that last percent. Chengdu admits that he has no idea what is special about that last 1%. The teacher questions whether he really thinks that after 99%, it simply reaches 100%. That is because, in truth, the transition from 99 to 100 is called the comprehensive mastery stage, and that explains why the MC cannot identify the basic techniques. The dagger does not look like a dagger, and the sword does not look like a sword. Comprehensive mastery refers to switching weapons, using a weapon with different attributes to execute the original basic technique. Chengdu reflects that Musashi's basic technique is the mantle hammer style, using a light and versatile sword to mimic the heavy force, like a mountain, of the mantle hammer style is the first step of comprehensive mastery. The next step is intent. Upon reaching that level, the opponent cannot even distinguish what your basic technique is. The MC is surprised, since Xiao Gu's basic technique is the Holy King's staff style. Musashi attacks once again, but with his Guanyin in Tears technique. She calmly observes the attacks until she finally finds the real one and points her dagger at the boy's neck. He finds this impressive and asks to see what she will do against the next strike, then forces the girl to retreat with his intensity. Then, she notices an opening and charges with everything, but Musashi warns that she has fallen into a cheap trap. She is startled because the guy is at 99.9%, an almost extreme level. The impact was so strong that it created an intense glow in the middle of the arena. The smoke begins to dissipate, and the people do not understand what is happening or whether Xiao Gu has lost. Moments earlier, Musashi counterattacked when he set up this trap and shouted that the title of Invincible among the young is now his. The MC feels this absurd pressure and is even relieved that he did not face this guy the previous day. In the middle of the attack, the girl simply uses her flood of 1,000 armies, which practically creates a tsunami with an attack that completely swallows the guy. She moves within this skill, and that is because she has reached extreme level 1, 100%. The last one to do this before the age of 18 was Vavatos, the director of one of the 8 great martial universities. The audience is impressed that someone managed to achieve this at 17 years old, and this is absurd. The sword is stabbed into the ground, and Musashi admits defeat. Chengdu finds it very boring, because after fighting so much, they should have had a more exciting life or death battle. Miriam says he is surprised because his friend hid the game well, since he did not reveal that his daughter was already at the supreme level. He explains that she advanced a week ago, and not even the teacher responsible for the team knew. Since she is one of the favorites for the title, exposing her status too early would affect the determination of the other competitors. Miriam finds it funny and agrees that the student's growth really is important. The other competitors admit that the girl is truly exceptional and has a father who is a 3-star deacon of the Extreme Martial Temple, so she will probably choose Black Dragon University. The boy says that Musashi is also very good, and it is a shame that he has already been recruited in advance by another university. Cloud Hair gets worried because their university is moving too slowly, and he does not even know if there are any other good talents left. With that, the next duels take place, and the audience starts getting bored, since, after seeing the insane first confrontation, all the others look like rookie scuffles that are boring to watch. Then comes the fight between Chengdu and Darren. Only then does the crowd get a little excited, because it is finally the turn of the one who cleared a wolf den alone. The MC gets ready and notices that his opponent is number 2, meaning he is the strongest fighter from the first group to collect the insignias, and that only makes everything more interesting. Already inside the arena, Darren says he did not imagine that Xiao Gu and Musashi would be such monsters, and because of that, he will settle for the top 10. Chengdu thinks he's being very confident by already declaring that he will be among the 10 strongest. The boy also points out that he heard about the wolf den and found it interesting. The moment he says that, he advances with impressive speed. Both keep their swords ready, and each one has 90% martial skill. Darren asks if he is in such a hurry to decide the victory because he is afraid he will not last in a battle of endurance. Then, he starts gathering energy in his fists, and his index already rises to 96%. At that same instant, he lands a powerful punch that sends Chengdu flying far away. He notices that it is a strength-based style assisted by the left hand. The weak point is the lack of agility. It seems the guy thinks the MC was injured the day before and wants to win by wearing him down in a prolonged fight. Chengdu advances again and admits to himself that if he did not have the recovery ability of the crystal space, the guy might have had some chance, but he will end this at once. Darren cannot believe he is being attacked with such an obvious thrusting technique and gets irritated because it almost seems like he is being underestimated. Without hesitation, he uses the Muramasa blade technique, 4th form. However, the MC defends himself with a counterattack, and his index is already at 99.3%. The guy's sword goes flying and his hand is cut. Without him understanding how the hell he received such a powerful blow, he falls to the ground, and the MC asks if he still believes he will make it into the top 10. In the stands, the scouts realize that Chengdu's martial skill has reached a very high peak, and the other admits that he is good, but only at an acceptable level, because the mental power he witnessed is only level 9. Cloudhair does not know if that is only acceptable, because if he had level 10 mental power and could evolve his soul into a martial soul, that would be excellent. The guy in the cap says that before turning 18, one needs to have level 11 vital intensity, level 10 mental power, or extreme level 1 martial technique to enter the class. The goal of watching the tournament is to mine these geniuses. Not to mention vital intensity, Chengdu's mental power and martial technique are a little below expectations. Although compared to Darren, he is still someone promising. In the end, they decide that at night, they will contact the MC to at least try to sign an intent contract. After that, everyone leaves because the second round is over, and they are looking forward to the final the next day. The MC keeps meditating and reflects that he used the rule of fight duration to his advantage. In the 4 rounds of duels, he avoided Xiaogu and managed to advance successfully. Inside the crystal space, he keeps slicing up monsters and feels that real combat helps a lot in raising his vital intensity. The day before, he was only a little short, but now he is certain that he can annihilate the bears. He feels relieved by this increase in power. The system congratulates him for his vital force, having increased from 5.8 to 5.9, and he believes he was right, because the battle against the wolves and the 4 duels that day helped a lot. A new monster appears, and he is happy to finally test this 0.1 increase in his power. Suddenly, he wakes up from his crystal space and notices that his cell phone is ringing because a message has arrived from his teacher. He immediately goes to another room and asks if something happened by any chance. The teacher introduces the 2 scouts from another university and says they are from the Special Admissions Office of Keelin University. The MC is surprised because he knows that this university is among the top 3 in the world. Together with Black Dragon and Tianfeng, Yuming explains that they are responsible for recruiting students who can enter the class, and the university invests resources dedicated exclusively to cultivating the strongest warriors of flight. Chengdu says he does not meet the admission requirements, and the teacher explains that having level 10 mental power and extreme level 1 martial arts before the age of 18 is indeed a requirement, but it has a special meaning because it includes the hidden treasures. When someone becomes a warrior, a hidden treasure automatically opens in the body to absorb stellar energy. Mental power also increases because of this. But if someone reaches one of the admission requirements before becoming a warrior, they will open 2 hidden treasures simultaneously. If they meet the requirements for martial technique and mental power at the same time, they can open up to 3 hidden treasures. There are 10 hidden treasures in total, which work as passive attribute abilities. The more, the better. Chengdu says he understands, and the teacher explains again that if someone manages to open 2 treasures at the age of 18, they are considered a genius. As for 3 treasures, that is the level of an unparalleled genius. Peng adds that although the MC still has not reached the cutoff score for special recruitment, he still has a lot of potential, and that is why he wants to sign a level C intent contract, which makes him a reserve candidate for the Keelan class. He also mentions the other two great universities, since they do not accept direct applications. They all work through this contract system to mine geniuses. By signing, he will immediately receive resources valued at 1 million credits, including chi and blood pills, elite training partners, and mental tempering pills. Peng reinforces that, after enrolling and reaching the requirements before becoming a warrior, the contract automatically rises to level B, and he will enter the class directly if there is a spot. Chengdu's main question is whether, if he signs, his family will be able to move with him. Yuming answers that they will not, since the family must remain at his current residence, and it is an official rule. Because to ensure everyone's safety, only warriors on missions or flight warriors can move freely between regions. The MC then thanks them but rejects the offer because he has already chosen the university he wants to go to. The two are shocked and ask whether he is going to Black Dragon or Tianfeng. He says that he will go to Huangshan University, one of the 8 great colleges. Yuming is surprised because this university is much weaker than theirs. They can even accept losing to the other 2 elite universities, but losing to an inferior university is madness. Chengdu says that he wants to stay close to his family because the threat of monster invasion is everywhere, and because of that, he needs to protect them. Peng points out that the chance of 1 among tens of millions of candidates entering the Qilin class is an absurd 0.00014%, and in the entire martial arts civilization, more than 50% pass through one of the 3 elite universities. So, if he really wants to protect his family, he should aim higher. As a genius, the weight of the MC and his influence in this world are much greater than those of an ordinary person. He smiles and thanks the teachers once again for valuing his potential, but still refuses the contract. With that outcome, the two leave, and the MC asks Ling Yun if he is not going to say anything. He says that listening to advice is good to avoid mistakes, but following the path of the heart is also valid, and because of that, he wishes him good luck in the fight the next day. But deep down, he realized that to convince Chengdu, he would need to ask the director for help. Meanwhile, at the Zhou family training field, Xiaogu continues practicing while making her attacks and gets startled because her attacks are always blocked with ease. Her father asks her to rest, since she has been practicing for 3 hours. She acts spoiled because one day she will still defeat him. Zhou Qiang hands her a drink because his daughter needs to think about how to win the title. She says that she still has her most powerful trump card, which she has not shown, and because of that, the title will definitely belong to her team. After that, in the auditorium of High Number 1 Secondary School, the MC is walking with his teacher until he feels that someone is watching him. The directors realize that the boy is indeed a very strong level 9 because he noticed it very easily. The teacher explains that Director Lee is paying close attention to him and even appeared especially to watch this fight. At that moment, an announcement congratulates the students who secured the top 10 and entered the finals, and because of that, they will explain the rules of that day. After all, it will be in 2 phases. In the first phase, the system will randomly draw one-on-one matchups to decide the top 5. Phase 2 will be a sequential battle, starting with the first draw. The solo sequential battle among the remaining 4 will come next. A victory gives 2 points, and a defeat deducts 1 point. The one with the highest final score will be the champion. In the second phase, the system will draw one of the 5 finalists to be the first challenger against the other 4. Each victory is worth 2 points. Chengdu notes that one person can get a maximum of 8 points, and that there will be no ties, except in one specific case. Basically, it is in the scenario where the first challenger defeats everyone. If he annihilates the other 4, he will directly secure the 8 points. Therefore, he needs to save as much stamina as possible to prepare for the sequential battle. All the groups are drawn, and the MC imagines that if Haicheng University planned a tactic for the title, it would be terrible if he spent all his stamina right away. Some spectators realize that veteran Vero is superior to his opponent. Besides, if the veteran defeats Chengdu, their team will dominate the top 3. Yuming wonders if it is still worth watching the final. His friend says that he has 1 million credits on his card, and as soon as the MC loses, he will give it to him as an investment. That is because he believes that someone who values family so much will never lose. And since he saw the talent he has, he is betting on it. The MC looks at Jungtian and remembers that this guy's opponents were either too weak or surrendered, so there is no way to know his real level with only basic techniques. Because of that, he has decided to observe before acting. The blonde guy points out that he already knew they would have this fight one day, and, without wasting time, leaves his swords behind and charges with everything. The MC is startled and blocks the attack, since he realized that the guy also uses the flowing light sword style. Jungtian says that he was also surprised to see him using this style. So, since both of them use the same technique, he attacks with even more force, because he wants to see who will win based on skill and brute strength. The MC notices that his opponent's sword is becoming extremely heavy, and it sucks that it started with so much pressure like this. The people watching say that both fighters already started with a skill index of 99%. Jungtian makes it clear that it is not over yet and attacks once again with everything, but Chengdu blocks it anyway. He starts to think it is impossible, because the guy's technique should have already reached its limit, and he wonders if, by any chance, he has also reached comprehensive mastery. Thinking about that, he jumps back after receiving enormous power, and the blonde guy becomes even more irritated because he has a strange feeling that Chengdu is using mental power annexation, and because of that, his index rises to 99.2%. The two stare at each other for a moment, and the MC recognizes that if he wants the title, he needs to defeat 5 people. So, he has to end this as quickly as possible to save energy. He prepares himself and says that he will end the fight in an instant. Jungtian dares him to show that so-called instant. Chengdu charges with everything, and his opponent asks if this is some kind of joke, because a frontal attack like that has no destructive power at all. The MC makes his move, but in the next instant, he changes his sword style and, saying goodbye, lands an extremely powerful strike that cuts right across the guy's stomach because it was impossible to block. The MC, after landing this beautiful blow, manages to reach 100%, thus obtaining Extreme Level 1. The crowd cannot believe what they just saw. Chengdu reaching Extreme Level 1. They shout excitedly, because the title of champion of the 6 Cities tournament may be about to change. He enjoys seeing this until he hears someone calling him. It was Jungtian, trying to understand if Chengdu really reached Extreme Level 1, because he is not feeling any extreme intent from the sublimation of the 4 forms. The MC does not even give him attention and leaves, since obviously the guy was trying to extract information to give to his companions. It is announced that Chengdu, from Team Liang, has won. The school director tries to process how the MC went from 99% to 100%, even though there are 10 barriers of 0.1%, comma, and does not know how this is possible. Yu Ming is also impressed, just like his friend, because they imagine what may have happened, and despite the probability being small, it is still too absurd. Suddenly, Zhou Cheng appears, saying that he did not know the 2 of them would appear at the stadium, and if they had not informed him, he would not even have found out. They congratulate him, because the director's daughter must have already received the Level B intention contract from Black Dragon University. He laughs, because he believes his daughter only has a little potential to become a flight warrior, but admits that Chengdu is also excellent and that the next fights will be interesting. After a few fights, it is Xiaogu's turn. She looks at her opponent, and the guy evaluates that his Luomen shield style is a defense with almost no blind spots, and believes that he will be able to endure until she shows some opening. However, in the blink of an eye, she attacks so fast that he is defeated without even seeing what happened. With that, her victory is guaranteed. The crowd shouts excitedly because, although they thought Chengdu was impressive, she showed that her performance is surreal. He notices that the first phase is over, and that they are already moving on to the next battle in sequence, without any interval, and he waits to see who will be drawn. The first one to be announced is Xiaogu, and she gets excited because her opponent will be the MC. He is ecstatic, since it was exactly as he imagined, because the girl is truly powerful and confident, but that only makes everything more perfect. She smiles, with her index also at 100%, and the audience believes the girl will try to knock him out with a single blow. He notices that this is the extreme intent, Sublimating blows with a force that borders on the metaphysical is truly extraordinary. She charges her attack and fires it in the form of a wave, but the MC blocks the attack. Because his skill index is also at 100%, Xiaogu notices that he managed to block it and is apparently giving it his all, and because of that, she gets excited, because she is seeing a few cards up his sleeve. The audience starts to find it strange that a blue aura is coming out around Chengdu, and they believe that maybe they are seeing things. Ling Yun immediately realizes what it is, and Yu Ming understands that he was not wrong before, because in fact, the MC's mental power has risen to level 10, and his soul has already evolved into a martial soul. The MC, after charging his aura, advances with everything, and she notices that his speed is much greater than before. Then, she manages to dodge the attack, but when she realizes it, she is being attacked again, and, even though she manages to block, she becomes worried because his strength has also become heavier, and she is realizing how the annexation of the martial soul works. He moves once again, just like her. Chengdu notices an opening and attacks, aiming exactly at her shoulder, but she manages to counter in time, despite thinking it is a pain, because she slipped up and her center of gravity wavered, so she needs to stabilize herself. The MC notices that the girl's rhythm has been broken, and if he does not give her a chance to recover, he can win. Because of that, he attacks again without giving her time to react, and the girl becomes more and more pressured. Chengdu becomes confident, because he will finally be able to defeat Xiaogu. The directors are perplexed, because they are seeing their student use level 10 mental power to force his index to 100%, and that is impressive. Limu is the most excited, because his school produced an incredible student. Meanwhile, Peng reveals that they will have to raise the level of the contract with the MC to level B in order to have a chance. His colleague agrees, and they will even have to set their pride aside and look for him once again. Zhu San hears this and finds it strange, because if they will need to look for him once again, it means the proposal was rejected before. Peng takes the opportunity to ask how he can stay so calm, because if nothing unexpected happens, his daughter will lose. He says that he is not worried. After all, if nothing unexpected happens, it means that something unexpected is about to happen. The MC is startled in the middle of the battle, because the strength and speed of his opponent have completely changed. She admits that he is very good, because even in the eyes of her father, who is very demanding, he would still be called a genius. However, she is the genius among all geniuses. Chengdu notices that the girl has released her martial soul, meaning that she has also reached the level 1 extreme technique and level 10 mental power. The two prepare once again, and he decides that he needs to be fast, much faster. He prepares to attack, but the girl is faster and forces him to block. She likes the pressure she is putting on him and continues attacking, reaching the point of throwing his sword far away. She asks if he has run out of energy by any chance because his strength has decreased, and makes it clear that it is over, because there is nothing he can do. Deep down, she is surprised by the performance he had, even though it was not enough. However, the MC warns that she is not the one who decides whether it is over or not and activates mental shock, war prison. She finally realizes why his strength suddenly decreased, because he poured all the power of his martial soul into his eyes. A strong flash heads toward her and leaves her eyes completely red, until she comes back to herself and is startled, because she never imagined that Chengdu was a mental prodigy and had created an illusory world through a spiritual attack. She sees herself surrounded by flames, until she hears some strange sound and comes face to face with an insanely giant monster. She tries to return to herself and ends up badly injured. The MC watches, and the audience asks her to stop pretending, since she should move quickly, because they cannot imagine a scenario in which she would lose. However, it is too late, because since she is stunned, she takes a precise blow, and the MC warns that this time, it is really over. With that, the victory is his. Zhou Cheng, watching, becomes irritated by his daughter's defeat and guarantees that he will remember the MC very well. Yu Ming says that he is amazed because he saw a boy comprehend a spiritual martial technique on his own, and that means his mental power could reach 100% even at level 15 or higher, and if they invest even more, he could even be considered rank A. Peng asks if he really wants to give a contract of intent at that level, because students who sign level A contracts are as rare as unicorn horns. He answers yes, because the strength he witnessed is at that level, although they still need authorization from the director. Because of that, he asks him to contact the administration immediately, since they need to do everything possible to recruit him. He goes to the hallway and passes all this information through the communicator. The rector finds it interesting that a quasi-warrior is focused on protecting his family and even fully trusts his teachers, to the point of allowing them to give a level A contract to a quasi-warrior. However, the issue of taking them to live together is complicated because it would violate the rules of the elite civilization. The professor says that, from what he heard, the other two universities have already signed students at level A, and so far, they have only found Chengdu, who is almost at that level. So, if they sign a contract early and increase his vital intensity, they will have a chance in the freshman competition between the three schools, which will happen in 1 month, and they cannot end up in third place like every year. Tianwen agrees, but says he will think more carefully about the matter, and because of that, they should wait for the answer. Later, at the competition venue, the MC receives the tournament champion medal, and it is the first time a student from Liang has won the title. He reflects that if he had not annihilated the two-faced bears in the crystal space, he would not have reached level 10 mental power to learn this technique. If he fought Xiao Gu again, she would not give him time to charge that blow and would not stay so close either, so he would certainly lose. Meanwhile, in the office of the director of Haicheng School, the secretary appears and asks if, by any chance, he did not want to see Chengdu after the fight, since he did not even appear at the award ceremony. He says he will leave it for next time, since, in a few months, he will return to the Extreme Martial Temple. That is because the Dynasty Project has officially begun. I think the MC returns to his house, and his father celebrates, since Chengdu brought the title to the city. His family congratulates him, because it was an incredible victory. He emphasizes that he won a good amount of prize money this time, so they will no longer have to worry about the household bills, and concludes that being with his family is definitely his greatest happiness. After that, he goes for a walk with his sister, and asks why she suddenly decided to live at the school. She answers that, obviously, it is to be able to level up. After all, she cannot embarrass the family. He asks her to work hard, since she should not waste the time he is spending taking her to class. At this moment, she notices something strange about him and asks if, by any chance, he got like that because he sensed the presence of some fans approaching. However, the MC is scared because he is sensing the presence of a silver demon and does not understand what the hell a monster like that is doing in the middle of the street. To make things worse, there was no invasion alarm, so there is no way something like that could enter the city just like that, out of nowhere. To make things worse, he notices that this demon has 8 spikes, with a level 8 life intensity. Completely terrified, he pushes his sister away, telling her to run. That is because the demon is charging straight toward him with everything it has. He starts breaking out in a cold sweat because he can feel this monster getting closer little by little, and he thinks it sucks that his sword was left at home. Because of that, he finds an iron bar, and as he grabs it in his hand, prays that it will be enough. The monster attacks with its colossal size, and he activates the flowing light sword style, managing to deflect the blow. He thinks it sucks because the steel rebar has no flexibility, and the movement was not precise. Once again, the demon attacks, and he is sent flying away. As he repositions himself, Chengdu reflects that the monster's life intensity is twice as high as his own, and, without a proper weapon, he will have no chance of winning. So, against an opponent like this, if he cannot fight, the only way is to find an opening to escape. At this moment, he hears a voice shouting for him not to move. It is his sister, telling the monster to come at her if it is capable, because she will not let it hurt her brother. He cannot believe this absurdity, and to make things worse, the monster is actually attacking the girl. He panics and shouts for the monster not to dare touch his sister, and automatically activates the war prison, which leaves the monster paralyzed. The system congratulates him, because the flowing current sword technique advanced from level 1, 99%, to level 1, 99.1%. He finally understands better what comprehensive mastery is, because even a steel rebar becomes a longsword, and because of that, he attacks without hesitation. However, the iron bar breaks, and he panics because something like that was not supposed to happen. With his weapon broken, He sees no other option but to grab his sister and run as fast as possible. At the same time, he asks his communicator to send a distress signal, but the demon appears in front of him at an absurd speed that he simply cannot believe. He thinks it sucks, because there will not be enough time to ask the city protection squad for help. If this punch does not kill him instantly, he will need to try using the impact to launch his sister away. He prepares himself to take the attack until the demon hits him directly. However, he notices that nothing happened. That is because a warrior appeared, defeating the monster with a single blow. Huqiang asks if he is okay and says he is from the city protection squad and received the alert about the presence of a monster. Feeling relieved that he arrived in time, she breathes a sigh of relief, and the MC thanks him because he was a great help. Near the place, the director is watching, and his assistant says that he was not informed that Chengdu would lose control like this, because he almost broke his control link with the wolf demon, and many things could have gone wrong. He replies that this only means his assistant's martial skill is not polished enough, while security had already positioned 2 high-level warriors to help. The expectation is that this casual encounter they planned will make the MC understand one thing. After that, at the secondary school, Chengdu is sitting down, and his sister, through the communicator, asks if he is hurt. He replies that he is fine, and that she should not tell their parents, because he does not want to worry anyone. She sees no problem and reinforces that he was incredible that day. He thinks about what happened and the injury he received, and this makes him conclude that he was far too naive. That is because danger had always been around him. If a real disaster happened, even if he were studying at Huangshan University, he would not arrive in time to save his family. That is because he is far too weak, and clearly, the Silver Demon's technical level was low, but it was still strong enough based only on its superior life intensity. That is because life intensity is the foundation of everything, and to raise it, he needs a massive amount of resources, which is exactly what Killin University offers. He realizes that he was thinking far too simply, because what he truly needs is not what is around him. In truth, what he needs is evolution at maximum speed, to be so fast that he can completely destroy the enemies before they even attack. At this moment, someone knocks on his door. It was the principal, apologizing for bothering him so late. Chengdu asks if he wants something, and he explains that he came with a gift because he bought it specifically with the current situation in mind, and says he should consider it a thank you. The MC does not understand where he is going with this, and he simply says that what was done together with the mayor was incredible regarding the 100 Cities tournament. That is because they only expected him to make it into the top 10, but he not only exceeded expectations, he also broke the record by bringing back the title. This increased the school's competitiveness in attracting talents and also took his career to the next level. The MC understands the situation and thanks him for the gift. Limu goes to the refrigerator and tosses a water bottle to Chengdu, who is surprised that he knows the room so well. He explains that, in fact, room 001 used to be his, but now it is more suitable for the MC. Besides that, he asks why his clothes are dirty, because it even looks like he was dragged across the ground. The MC reflects that he was told not to spread it to anyone, but since he is alone with the principal, then it is not considered spreading rumors. Then, intrigued, he reveals that he encountered a level 8 wolf demon that night, and does not understand why the hell there are monsters in the city where they live. The principal pretends to be surprised, but inside, he was waiting precisely for him to ask that. Chengdu asks him not to worry, because things were resolved, but he wants to know the secret behind all of this. Limu says that the answer to the question is indeed a secret, and at the same time, it is not. Only warriors or higher are allowed to know, because if people truly knew, the entire order of elite civilization would collapse. Chengdu is shocked, because he had never imagined how serious this was. That's all, folks. If you enjoy the video, subscribe and hit the bell. Thanks.